So we're going to do a bit of a speed run here, kind of a demo. I was telling some guys it only takes about an hour to do something like this if you wanted to create something like this, but it's going to require quad remesher, so a paid add-on, and Substance Painter as well. And it's not really that difficult to do at all. It's just almost automated in ways, but we'll run through this as fast as we can, kind of a demo, not necessarily a tutorial. And we're just going to start with the cube, jump into sculpt mode, dynamic topology on, and we're going to use X symmetry there. So play strips. And for what we're doing, I'm going to turn it to subdivide edges and not let it collapse. Okay. So basically, if we need to, if we look at the wireframe, every time we do some sculpting, it becomes like so. If we zoom in, it becomes more. But if we need to reduce that resolution now, if normally you start sculpting with it further back, it would reduce it. But now we're going to use the density brush, and it still behaves like it will collapse, basically. So we can reduce triangle count manually if we need to, basically. Now, here's where it gets fun. It's about the big basic shapes first. It's nothing more than that. And so you can start with dynamic topology. You can use the voxel remesher. It doesn't really matter. Start sculpting them using clay strips. And the big forms are some of the most important forms. And you can use all the different brushes you have available. So if you want to inflate things, you could do that, smooth them out, whatever the case. And at a certain point, all we're going to do is just switch to voxels. But the main reason I like starting with the dynamic topologies, we don't really worry about certain things. Like if we use snake hook, for example, pull a little section of this model out. So maybe, right? Right in a different direction. Perhaps. So we'll play around with the idea of creating something like a little creature or something, but I'm going to kind of fly through this. I don't want to see if like we do snake hook that way, that projection over here, or fall off to projected. We'll go through the whole mesh. So we can do things like that. Right. Now, let's go back to clay strips. And you may want to turn front faces only on certain brushes. You don't always want it on, but sometimes you. So we'll do something like this for now. Let's do right here, shift right click, create a sphere real quick. The UV sphere, think of it as an eyeball. Fill it down, rotate it if you need to. You see where we're going? Um, do that just like that. I'm going to use machine tools to just select, shift select, Alt Shift X, mirror it over. So it's a mirror modifier. Axis of X across this other object. I drop it. Boom. You set it up like that anyways. So this is great. It's a good starting point anyways. So we can get back in here. Dynamic topology will turn off automatically. That's because it has a UV map. Get rid of it. You got to do this in object mode sometimes. You go back into sculpt mode with dynamic topology on. And we go back now between object mode and sculpt mode. It'll always be on, basically. So that's good. And we can start figuring out our shapes and our forms here and using snake hook and doing whatever we really want. It's quite simple. It's a lot of fun. Try out different ideas here. Take something too thin, just use the inflate tool. Get it going again. Smooth it out a bit. Inflate can have some problems sometimes where it causes the mesh to fold over on itself. If that's the case, just turn dynamic topology off, hit R, set the resolution, Control R, remesh it. Okay, and you can turn it back on at that point. It should clear out anything on the inside of the shape, hopefully. That's the main idea. So if we want to create some really crazy characters or creatures and just go to town, we can have fun here, guys. Like, it's really that simple. Everything else is going to be way faster to some degree. And you'll see how it works out anyways. So we'll give this guy a starting point of some kind of mouth. We'll do it something like this. And you see the voxel or the dynamic topology here starts failing maybe. So sometimes using remesh is actually easier. You just got to keep pressing Control R to remesh, right? So we can start maybe trying to develop a jawbone or whatever we're creating here. I have no idea. You just start working it. Big things first, obviously, are the most important. Going out some cool shapes, designs. You should spend a good minute of your time just working the topo and the model itself. Like, don't or not the topo, but the model itself is really important in my opinion. Trying to get the kind of shapes you want and designs, and I want some like mandible looking things from insects or something. I can do this kind of tentacles, whatever the case, right? You see, that one's not quite the way I want it. I probably could pull it off with clay strips to add some thickness now. Gotta be careful that it doesn't pull the backside of the mesh if it's too thin. That can happen as well. So you see where that goes like that. Now around the eyes, obviously, you want to spend a little bit of time here. Really, the most important things with like characters or creatures a lot of times ends up being or the facial areas, basically eyeballs and things like that. Now, originally, the whole reason I ended up purchasing a quad mesher was so that I can do things like this, right? For static mesh. So if I needed like a statue in an environment or something, I could easily get in here. I'm going to try to bring that up a little bit forward slash to isolate. So I can get in here and just start creating things very fast. And if I needed static mesh that, wasn't super deformable or wasn't planning on animating it a whole lot, so like statues and things like that, could easily get something going very fast, right? That was the main idea of this whole setup here for my Blender workflow anyways. There's a little bit of bouncing back and forth, but you'll see how it works. So sometimes you gotta like, even though we know we need like a little socket there for the eye, sometimes you just gotta fill it in. And the regular draw tool is really good as well. So you can just get in there and start drawing. You can see like, I don't know what's going on in there. I gotta isolate. Maybe I need to smooth it out. Maybe, some things might be going on. Yeah, mess with like you could uh sculpt the eyes if you really wanted to, but a lot of times it's just easier not to. You just keep them as like little separate pieces here, perhaps. Move them around a little bit, get them kind of going the way you want. If you're not used to working with any kind of characters or anything, or playing with the shapes, like if you do eyes in certain ways, like you can see it doesn't look very aggressive because of the way the eyebrows are or whatnot, right? The ridge of the eye, I guess. The ridge of the brow. Yeah, so we want to make them more intimidating looking. We make them more like angry face, a little bit more angular, things like that, right? We can also mix hard surface into this. So if you're doing a character or a creature that has like armor, metal plates and stuff like that, model those as separate parts. You would probably work them as their own individual pieces as opposed to attaching it to the organic sections. Good chance you'll do that. Now, draw sharp or crease sharp, quite useful as well. So you can start knocking out just really cool stuff rather fast if needed. Filling this area up here, so I'm just gonna like, maybe leave it a little bit lumpy. You can be very rough with this too. Like you don't have to do everything like pristine just yet. No point. If you do like a surface, keep it. Don't do that, but keep moving. And what you'll find over time is that you can just remesh as you go, build things up, remesh, smooth them down. And if it's too high of a resolution, it's actually harder to work with to get the big shapes going. So that's kind of what you want to do is just kind of use a lower resolution mesh for a while. Um, I'd say maybe not lowers is better, but you'll find like a happy medium where it behaves the way you want it to, basically, and start working out all kinds of cool, interesting details and shaping everything exactly the way you want it. So we can do that, and we can add teeth in here, do stuff like that. That's not a problem. Depending on which kind of strategy you want to go for doing like a character or its mouth or a creature. You might do it closed and split it later. You might do it with it kind of like halfway open. You can do it with it fully open, but it's really up to you to determine like which kind of techniques, sculpting techniques you want to use. Not, supposed to be like a video on sculpting necessarily, but I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do down here. I was planning on closing it up, but maybe we just leave it more open for a bit. Weird mouth thing going on here. other type of details. See how good it is to do the big stuff first, right? You can always smooth things down, and smoothing sometimes when it's very low resolution is too strong. You just turn down the strength on the smooth brush, get it where you like it. So now when you're using it, you'll always be able to go through and keep working. So overall, not too bad so far. The mask tool, not so useful on dynamic topology, but a little bit better on the voxels. You can use it very quickly to do all kinds of cool things for it, or changing things anyways. You do like a mask. The mask pie menu is A. So we inverted it. That's all we did. And then we could use like mesh filter inflate. Do that number. Works out quite well. If we want to push those in a little bit, maybe we do that. Who knows? Um, but let's say we wanted to, I don't know, try something different. Let's try doing this. Maybe we want like an egg kind of shape thing. And then we want like another one here. The masks are really good because you can do move with it, shift right click. You can do pulled out sections like this. You can scale them, right? You see how they all scale towards that one though? So you may want to do these one at a time because of that reason, unless you actually want that kind of a look. In my case, I wasn't actually planning on it causing that problem, but it did. So what I would do, normally what I was going to go over is like move them and scale them, do stuff like this too. Maybe we actually go with this. Who knows? But we can rotate them. So we can do all kinds of cool layering of things, basically, like this, if we needed to. I actually kind of like that. So I'm just going to Control R and clear the mask. I'm not worried about it being super smooth right now. You just go back to sculpting. But you could have, I'm going to show you another little trick here, is that you could, let's say we do it down the middle. Yeah. Maybe some are bigger than the others. We can invert it and use snake hook with that as well, right? So we could just grab sections and just pull them out. It's a really cool way of like controlling the bottom, like the profile, right? You can see that actually works out pretty well there, maybe. Really cool, right? Like sculpting is one of the best ways of just coming up with like organic designs by far. Like you can just do lots of stuff with it very fast. It's really kind of insane. Now, draw sharp is really going to be your like workhorse, though, I think. Draw sharp or crease sharp, because it allows you to just get in there and make really nice little pushed in kind of cavities or crevices or deform the shapes in a way that like we can start to like if we do pressure sensitivity with our graphics tablet, we can really kind of feather in detail and change forms between this and the inflate tool. We can actually do quite a lot. Let me use a scraper here real quick. Uh, Something a little bit different. Bring it a little bit more flush in the bag. But yeah, you see where this all starts going, right? And so when I'm saying, I was telling these guys that have can do kind of crazy stuff very fast. It's true. Like it's really about those big primary shapes, right? It's not really about. I'm gonna turn this into positive. Not about necessarily um, doing super detailed stuff right off the bat. That should you should eventually work into it so you can increase this resolution a little by little until you get exactly what you want going on. Maybe I should do that more like a human eye right there. Folds over a little bit, maybe. So at some point you slow down, take your time, get everything going the way you want it. Should work out for you at least. Make all kinds of little designs or patterns or textures or whatever you want really. Like these areas in here are pretty rough for the most part. Not too far off from what I would want, basically. Right. So what I'm going to do is increase the resolution. Press R, hold shift, drag it to the right, control R. Higher resolution. Did it do it? Look like it. Okay. Trying to drop frames while remeshing. So what did I go to? 4 million? You. We don't need it that dense. That's too dense. So somehow it managed to go to a different number there. Yeah. So yeah, we definitely didn't need it that high. Usually this is like a preview, by the way. So if you like hold Alt while orbiting, you can hit R and you can set the resolution off this. But you can't always see exactly what you're going to get, right? Just eventually it turns like clear or something like that. It's weird. But we can definitely go in here. We can do a little bit more detailing. This will actually take effect on the remesh when we do it. So all of this stuff is really when you need to start slowing down a little bit and kind of finessing it. Try to get them, mostly correct and do the right things here at least, and should work out a little bit better for you. So you can see the remesher is going to take longer now because it's higher resolution. We still might have things we have to do or change here. We can still use the mask tool. We can actually set the mask tool to do projected as well. We can go across areas like this, perhaps, if we need to, just to mask it out. So maybe we can go in here and inflate this area. And then we can work that as like its own piece, maybe work this area. So we can create little, setups like this if needed. Clear the mask with A, do more specific kind of little areas. You can also smooth it. You can hold shift and smooth masks as well with the mask tool. And let me just get rid. We'll just do that again. Inflate. Pretty high resolution right now, but that's okay. And so yeah, basically guys, like this is it, right? Like you're just going to sculpt and have some fun with it. Don't be afraid of these tools. Like learn the different brushes, how they work. I mean, you can use even like the cloth brushes or whatever the case. There's all kinds of different things you can pull off here and move it down if needed, and rework the edges and all the other fun stuff, right? So I think this needs more pulled out there. We're going to move on from this here in just a moment. I'm not trying to do too much detail work for this video. I said this takes about an hour to do. When you're not talking and you're just kind of going for it and really thinking about what you're doing, it just tends to speed up a little bit. Or it could be slower. Who knows? It doesn't really matter. Speed doesn't matter as you're learning or you're getting better at what you do. Those things. It comes in time, basically. So yeah, be sharp, draw sharp, super powerful tools. Use them quite heavily. Do not take those for granted that you have those. You can really start to work things out. You like little patterns and stuff, and you see like that kind of stuff that could possibly show up with what we're going to. Maybe we want this to be more pushed in a little bit here, kind of like fleshy. We can do that. Maybe we want it to look a little bit more like, like insects have little holes in their armor where it's like softer. Or other types of creatures and they have exoskeletons. Maybe we do some of that stuff. Think about anatomy and all that other stuff that you got to worry about when doing creatures, obviously, right? We do teeth separately, possibly. We wouldn't necessarily like sculpt them in. We might just model them. So you can use as many parts and pieces as you need. But this is going to be kind of like a simplified take on it, anyways, where I'm just going to make the idea. Mouth. You see where we're going with this? It's really like this, guys. Maybe he has tonsils. Who knows? All kinds of fun stuff you can do. With tongue in here or something. All kinds of nonsense like that, possibly, right? Give him some depth for the jaw, obviously. He has some kind of jaw on there. Think skeletal structures, right? It'll be thinner, more stretchy material, more than likely. So yeah, this area right around the eyes and the mouth and face area is the most important for let's say a large amount of things. That's just how it is. This is the way it works. So the other creaser is actually very good as well. Don't take that one for granted either. It's pretty smooth. Works out really nice. You don't have to do everything crazy fast. No, it's kind of going quick through this, but you don't have to do it fast at all. You can use clay strips, very low strength, and just go build things up. Crease them. Take your time, guys, and have fun with it, especially as you're getting used to doing these kinds of things, right? Like this is all kind of garbage in this area. We probably need to rework it a little bit, maybe increase it or whatever the case, maybe use the other creaser. I have to remesh it and smooth it or something. Things like that happen quite a bit. So, all right, we got something crazy looking, almost like it was nothing, right? We're going to stop here on the sculpting aspect of it because I got to run through this still, right? Like we got more stuff to deal with. It's not going to look as impressive, I think, unless we did a little bit more refinement. But I'm going to right click, shade it smooth. I'm going to leave them a little bit rough for now. I think it's fine. We'll see how that works out when it goes to substance and we do a high to low poly bake and everything. But the main thing is I'm going to quad remesh him. So he's at 600, there's a million triangles basically. It's pretty high. These guys we can shade smooth. I'm going to actually just assign a material to this and make it black and turn the roughness down. So that'll give us this look here, right? This is going to be our base sculpt. Just name it whatever you want, really. And go back to solid for now. We're going to hide those. We're not going to worry about them. You can make sure you name things so you can always find what you need off the list, right? And then this one we're going to quad remesh. Quad remesher sometimes does this good, sometimes it doesn't. It's probably going to miss these teeth. You'll see what's going to happen. So default settings, we can crank the quad counts up quite a bit. I mean, this is a million triangle type setup here. We don't necessarily need a million, but it could be possible that we use 10 or 20, whatever the case. For environment stuff, it depends on the project, but maybe you do it 8,000, somewhere around there, 10,000. Be lower, higher. We'll see what we get with that setting. This is not going to be like deformable character mesh, right? This is going to be maybe better for static mesh, like I was saying, but you can see what's happened here. So quad remesher tries to do it and it gets it generally okay. If you want a little bit better of a result, you can do symmetry because we were working with symmetry. We just do symmetry real quick. And we'll see that that becomes a little bit nicer because of the symmetry option. Okay, so it's a little bit more predictable in this area. Still got a majority of our shapes are going to be coming out just right. Not really a big deal. They're a little bit soft though. So if you want to regain some of this sculpted detail, because you see we lost like the little ridges, little things going on the surface, this is where it gets fun. So we want to make sure these are both aligned back together. With quad remesher, I turn hide input off by default, right? But we can grab this one and align it to this one using machine tools. Grab this, shift select, Alt A, put it back. Really that easy. If you don't have machine tools, you could probably get away with this number here because the origin point should be the same. Shift S, cursor is selected. Grab this, Shift S, selection to cursor. Should line up. Okay. Now, we're going to isolate, or we can actually hide the base one, right? We'll say this is the quad one. Right? And the base one here, we're going to press H and just hide it. Now, the quad one, we can add a multi-resolution modifier to it. So multi-resolution, we're subdivided. Same as subdivision for the most part, except it lets you sculpt on it more. So we can take up the triangle count pretty high here if we wanted to. If we want to go to 1 million or 2 million, we can do that. But you can see it's like super, super smooth now. And we can use a shrink wrap modifier as well. And if we shrink wrap, pick our base sculpt, the voxels, you'll see how it all comes back. It actually looks a little bit better this way as well. I mean, it's not perfect, but you'll see it also picks up our problem areas as well. So that's kind of a trick like that, but some areas actually might turn out looking nicer if they're more smooth. So the multi-resolution, if we take it down for a second, you see how like some of those discrepancies go away? So at 1, it doesn't retain a lot of information, but it does retain a little bit more, but it stays a little bit nicer, right? So we can apply the shrink wrap, okay? Multi-res, we can delete higher for a second, okay? And it'll stay like this. So if we subdivide from here, gonna tighten it up a bit, and we can just keep hitting subdivide, getting it to go a little bit higher and higher till we're at a reasonable triangle count that we want to work with. This is where we would do most of our like more detailed sculpting anyways. So you can see like we've lost a lot of creases. We might turn our brush strengths really far down. We're going to take our time here. This is the time you slow down and you really start finessing things. Although you don't necessarily have to, but this is probably the better time to do that, right? So like if you want teeth or little, maybe there's just really small teeth. They're not quite, um, you'd model regular teeth usually, but maybe they're just really small ones. And so like little razor blade type setups. Maybe we do that for now. Who knows? Will these actually bake correct? Probably not. I have a feeling it's not going to look quite right. We'll see. We can rework areas, add detail, smooth things out, add textures. You know, do what we got to do here, guys. Like that's the key. This is a refinement step that should eat up most of your time, besides actually creating the textures, perhaps. Right. So textures can eat up a lot of time if you want to do a real fancy paint job, anyways. But you get the idea now. So we can continue to add like little lumps and bumps and surface details. We can use alphas. We can go crazy at this point. We can add all kinds of little detail that we didn't do originally, but you just want to slow down, get them more correct. Because honestly, if you try to speed through this, every little problem you've created will show up. So you want to add like little idea of surfaces that have little changes in them. Little changes is what we're going for at this point. We're not trying to do big changes. We want to do all the little stuff because it's going to be page requires, like when we're doing the bake, going to require that these areas don't move around too much, right? It's all going to be smooth shaded, so you don't have to worry about doing like sharps and um, UV mapping with seams and all that. We're not even going to UV map this. We're going to let Substance take care of it. So going to do a very terrible job, in my opinion. Well, not a perfect job, but it'll do it well enough that we can create a concept. Just kind of go to town, right? And you can see like we can just the amount of stuff we can pull off here as far as like surface details go, is pretty good. I mean, you don't even have to technically sculpt them. You can go to Substance Painter and do a majority of that stuff anyways with different types of materials and doing like height map painting and whatnot. But you could certainly do it here as well. So it's just kind of fun to, get in here and get things going at least. And I'm going to use crease again. I just want to try to make this a little bit more, um, the edge is a little bit more defined for now. The main reason being is that they got pretty soft, and so they don't create really cool curvature maps when they're real soft, generally speaking. And the curvature maps are what help drives the masks and whatnot in Substance Paint. A lot of times, ambient occlusion, curvature, and stuff like that. So you can definitely go through here. I don't even know what this area is, but so any messy sculpting here will show up as our result, right? Our final result that we'll end up with sooner or later. You see, like that one, when we crease it, it kind of does okay, but it's a little odd. Draw sharp. Turn that back to negative. You can also hit Shift S and turn on the stroke smoothing. Right, so if you need stroke smoothing, you can do that. Create a little cavity in that area, maybe. Kind of going for like a crab type setup there. You see what I'm going for? Like a mandible crab setup or something. Yeah, what are we at now? 30 minutes? Okay, so we're going to move on from this. Losing focus on it anyway. It's not quite doing what I want. We use the inflate tool in here. Just gonna deflate it a little. Creates like a little hole. I'm gonna use a plateau tool and I'm just gonna flatten it. Get a little extra detail in that area. Maybe he breathes through his head somehow. Who knows? What I'm doing. Right. Okay, and yeah, so that's kind of the main idea here. Do this all over. Have a lot of fun with it. Adding more and more stuff to it. Just try to get the bottom one to match the top real quick. All right, let's move on. Now, so that's how that works. Now, the cool thing about this though is that like we should check them first of all in material preview with Eevee with shadows on at least. What we're looking for here is you can get an add-on on the extensions to rotate your HDRI images. You want to check it with shadows. I want to make sure the shadows, because shadows create negative space in like shapes, basically. Like is darker here, brighter here. So you get different kind of reads on the design. So just check it first, and if it works for you, it works. But just make sure it's looking good. Also, like if he has like darker material or color of the skin or something as well in certain areas, it'll do the same thing as a shadow, basically. So, but all these create little sub shapes everywhere, and you're looking for composition of shapes, create better designs, basically. Okay. Unless you have a functional aspect for it to exist, then it doesn't do that. Anyways, I think it's okay. Now let's move on. So he's pretty much good to go, but we have like extremely high triangle count, right? Doesn't matter. This one here, you can also consider your high. Okay. I'm going to duplicate it and just remove the multi-res, and that's our low. That's it. All you got to do, you could bake in Blender, but we don't have to. So you can see our 29,000 triangle piece here. It'll work out fine. I'm going to select it. I'm going to use FBX export. Machine tools is just a pie menu with Control S, but I'm going to send it to desktop and selected object only. Okay. So this is going to be the low. Set it. Boom. Export. Okay. And you don't necessarily have to do it that way either. Just to give you an idea here. Like this high one here, you could just disable this and export it with it off, right? You can do one with it on, one with it off. If it's not too high, that is. Let me talk about that real quick. If this is too high, right? Like we sculpted a bunch of detail where like 20 million, I don't know, something really high where Substance would have a hard time baking it. You would collapse it. You would just convert it to a mesh. Okay, so get rid of the multi-res modifier and then you decimate it. When you decimate, turn off preview, type in the number you want to hit, and then apply. It'll do the calculation one time. It'll be destructive, but you don't have to fight with it. Doing the decimate and then like tweaking the numbers there, and it's like a just one time, one shot thing. So, we end up with a much lower triangle count, but it looks virtually identical, right? So that's a big thing with that one. So we might have to do that sometimes. 1 million, 2 million should be fine. It won't really matter. At least on my system. Maybe on yours it might. Decimate it in that case. But yeah, we're going to export the high now. I'm just naming them high and low just to understand what's going on here. But the usually it's like alien head high or low or whatever you end up using as far as names go. But selected object for the high, boom. Let's go to Substance. All right, now in Substance, still loading. The main thing here is that we're going to do new. I'm just going to use Unreal Engine template for now. Compute tangent space per fragment, 2048 is fine. We're going to check auto unwrap. I don't have any other settings changed here, but you could try to tweak those if you need to. And so we'll create this new project, select our low poly, bring it in. It's going to automatically unwrap it. If we hit F3, that's our unwrap. It's not usually very good, but if for concept purposes, we can do this. If we were going to use this mesh in a game, obviously this isn't going to cut it. We'd have to go back and unwrap that thing more purposefully so that we get a better unwrap, or do some kind of material blending or other strategies anyways for the model. But we'll hit F2 now and go back for just a second. So it does come in. It's good. Let's go to bake. We're going to load the high poly right there. And we're going to look at the cage here. It should be pretty much good to go. If you didn't do any major pushes or pulls out of the surface on the high when sculpting, add some anti-aliasing and the default settings for now, but you may want to consider like tweaking curvature in particular. This one can sometimes generate bad results, and play around with some of the settings and just bake the curvature for a bit until you get like a better one. And that's going to essentially help your materials on the surface. You see that's the curvature right there, kind of a little bit dim, but it should still work in our case. And it's all done. Let's go. And that's it. Because it's all smooth shaded, we don't have to worry about sharp edges and seams and all that nonsense. It works out really well. Now, the texel density may be kind of scattered all over on this thing, but for the most part, it should kind of work out okay. It shouldn't be too bad. So we're going to kind of keep this one generic, I think. We're going to use a smart material. I'm going to use this creature skin. I'm just going to drag it over here. We can delete that bottom layer, by the way. And so creature skin, and I got like that World of Warcraft look to it or whatever. That'll work for now. Okay, we're not going to do anything too fancy here. But we have other ones we can add, like if we wanted dirt, we can throw it on top. So Substance, of course, uses smart materials, and smart materials are really just several different base materials with different types of masks, automatic masks and stuff, and mostly procedural type stuff, right? Or semi-procedural at least. And so that's all a smart material is. You can create your own. You can just spend some time creating like new fill layers and things like that. So I'm going to create a fill layer here. This one, I'm going to change the base color to black. You use a dark brown or desaturated type brown. And I'm going to change the roughness up. Okay. And so this isn't usually advisable for like game assets where you have lighting that can take place on the surface. But for a concept piece, you can do this and get away with it quite easily. But even some artists use this for games as well. Because there's times that like surface details and crevices do become darker because of mud buildup or dirt or whatever the case. They don't get as much light. So there's times that you might still do something like this. But we're going to use a smart mask here. And we're looking for, there's different ones you could use. We're looking for one that uses the ambient occlusion mostly. So like dust occlusion works well, or like dirt cavities maybe, something like that. And we can drop it into that little section there. Okay, so with this on and with it off, you can see it adds like a nice little amount of darkening in some areas. Okay, so we could do that. We can always play with like dirt levels as well if we needed to. I try not to get too carried away with this usually. I just try to have it do a little extra. And then you can take like the actual layer here for the base color. You could probably just drop the base color a little bit. So that's not super strong. It doesn't end up like pure black somewhere. But I kind of like it strong right now, so we'll leave it. And yeah, so there we go. We got this kind of started and going. Let's try something a little bit different here real quick. Do another smart material. Let's see if I can find what I'm looking for. Creature teeth, for example. We're going to put that below this one. Okay, so if you're doing skeletons and things like that, this is another prime example. Having some good base materials and substance really is helpful. But yeah, you can just throw something like that on and tweak it maybe for like skeletons and whatnot. But the main thing here is that I don't want this everywhere. So I'm going to grab this little section, right click, add black mask. And get rid of it on everything. I'm going to select the mask now. Okay. And all I'm going to be doing is if we go a scroll here. Yeah. We want to make sure we're set to white. Okay. When we hit X, it goes to black. All right. If you work in the middle, you're not going to get like a one-to-one like mix. Like you're going to get like a blend, basically. It'll be soft. So if you want something mixing, that's a little bit different. I want it more pronounced. So I'm going to use white. And we could turn symmetry on as well if we want to save a little bit of time since we did do a symmetrical object. But generally speaking, I would say don't do symmetry. And right now, symmetry, of course, is on X. So we're good. But we're going to save a little bit of time in this video anyways. And you see also it looks like, or it appears anyways, like the auto unwrap has created seams on these guys right here by the looks of it. Maybe it hasn't. Maybe it has. Who knows? We'll just paint all that out. We can do that for sure. Might be other times you want to blend things together so that maybe you do use that as gray values or something. You can always turn flow up and down as well, right? Or opacity and do blends that way. You don't have to adjust that all the time. Like maybe this is still like bone in this area for whatever reason. Oh, press F to reset kind of the view there. So if we turn flow down and we start working in here, very low, pressure sensitive on the pin, you can see we can lightly blend that in, right? It's just like drawing in 2D. I mean, a lot of like sculpting feels like you're drawing in 3D, right? And then when you're doing the texture painting here, it's just like you're painting an actual physical object, basically. That's why Substance Painter is so good. I tell guys all the time that they hate Adobe products, maybe, and I tell them don't, because if Substance Painter is on Steam and you can get it perpetual, get it and then use the heck out of it. It's really worth it. So do not be afraid of this software. It is not, you just simply cannot do this in vanilla Blender very easily. You can try add-ons like UQ Paint or whatever, but it's just not to this level, right? Like this is a different territory now. Uh, Eventually, some of those add-ons might catch up, but just the way it works here is so flawless, basically. It's a great painting app. Today, it's no longer perpetual on Steam. I will tell you not to buy it. So, till then, use it, especially as you're learning. And it'll last you for a while too. You know, the software doesn't break like instantly, like because it gets outdated or something. At least usually not. Maybe it does in the future or something, but worth every freaking penny. 100%. So yeah, now we just take our time. We go through here and we start texturing it all. And that's where all the fun really takes place because there's a lot you can do here. You just keep going until your heart's content. But the better, I would say, maybe not the better the base sculpt, but like, if you create a solid design and you go to town painting in Substance Painter, like you're going to have, even if it was a relatively simple kind of setup, you can really do a lot here because you can just paint height maps too. Like you can almost use Substance Painter like a sculpting program, which is rather crazy when you think about it, but you can. It's just, let me show you. It's like the fill layer. I'm going to turn everything off but height and drop the height value using basically the same brush here. Oh, that's okay. Let's do. Got to do the mask. Add a black mask. There. See? So now we can get in here and we can turn that flow down. We can actually, like I was saying, you can use it like a painting program or a sculpting program almost. We're using just parallax occlusion right now, I believe. I'll turn that size off there for the pin pressure size. I got to adjust this like this now. I can adjust the flow as well, holding control and all that. But yeah, basically we can get in here. We can kind of start sculpting this way. If we wanted to. You're like, sculpting? How's this? Well, yeah, I guess technically no, it's not sculpting, but it's painting a height map, what you're doing. And painting a height map. So if we want to add little elements, we can change like the value here. Oh, not that one. We can push it in or out. basically, right? But if we had did a regular paint layer and we do this like this, we can still paint in this manner where we're doing just the height, but we can change the height now as well. We want it a lot or little or negative. See? So that becomes really good, especially when you mix it up with like the smudger, kind of blend them together and do some other fun stuff with that. It becomes rather interesting, but a little bit easier to control it with the layers and the masking. So might use that one instead. Unfortunately, some of these little bumps I did kind of got lost in here. I'm wondering if it's just because that material, yeah, they just weren't well defined. I think that was our biggest issue. Let's create another material. Let's do this creature tongue, and we'll add a black mask. We'll turn that flow up in white. Yeah, you can see this one's kind of like getting pushed back in now. Yeah, so every new layer, basically, we can change things up. I don't know exactly how this is supposed to be looking, but in and out of control. I'll press F, reset the view, go to the side. Yeah, I don't want it that bright. I don't want it to look like a tongue exactly. I'm gonna change it. Maybe like a dark brown. Might be other ones in here we can change. Yeah, yeah, something like a purplish brown. Yeah, you have a lot of creative authority here on modifying those smart materials. You see, that looks way cooler in my opinion. So we can definitely do that. Oops, wrong button. There you go. Let's go back. Thinking about just adding all of these in here in the jaw area as well. Maybe putting that bone on top of it. If that was the case, because the way we have it layered, this would have to be under everything, which I kind of got it backwards right now, I think. But we won't do that then. We'll just color this area super fast. And what we'll do is we'll drop in another one. We'll put it below it. You see, that's very disturbing. But we'll do black mask. And now a little bit more flesh tone type stuff going on in here. We could probably blend this one out too a little bit. It probably wouldn't hurt it. So if we want to do that, we could. Not so abrupt, maybe. Hit X and erase. And we just keep going with this process, guys. I mean, really, that's all it comes down to. It's you see, blending on that one not as awesome. It's a soft round brush as well, so you might have to change the hardness value of it right here. The hardness value might make it look a little bit nicer if you need sharper edges and things, because probably work that right. What are we at? We're not even at an hour yet. Okay, that's good. We'll just kind of go through this and see what we can continue doing. Maybe we'll take these bone ones here and fill them into this area a little bit more. For teeth. I think it was teeth, right? Monster teeth. Want to give him like a skeleton face? I mean, that's a possibility. That flow down. Be further. So yeah, we could start really getting picky with some things, and maybe we just add some like on certain edges we add some bone material, teeth material. That was the whole idea of doing all that. Turn that back on. 'Cause I don't know what's going on with it. Yeah, I don't think we would do the green here in this area. I don't think that makes much sense. And I think we can do like false holes here as well for like the little breathing section, which we could use basically that what we did earlier, the black fill. You could do that same thing again, basically. But we'll put a little hole in there. So I'm gonna flow down that area together a little bit. Don't try to make it too solid because you can see it's getting a little bit repetitive, right? Want to make it maybe it kind of has some areas that are more interesting than other areas. That flesh tone again, which is here. Maybe we can use it like in this area. What I'm going for. Some of these little areas. Maybe we do that in there too. Uh, Before we go further. That's an idea. I don't think that really works well there. So it does, but it doesn't. It needs to be blended, I think. Like it needs to be very subtle that it comes back. Okay. Even in here, we can do a little bit of mixing, if you would. And kind of doing like lazy mixing, if you would. And maybe even in like the eye area a little bit. Just try not to go full strength quite the way it was other areas. Okay. So yeah, something like that for now. Let's do still black mask. We're gonna take this and make it once again black, rough up. Okay. And we should be able to just come in here and hit this right here. You can see not maybe hard enough. So that in there. You can also change the height of it, push it down further. That flow up maybe. So and you would do this with your ambient occlusion as well, possibly. So that way it just creates like the false impression of a hole in there that goes, deeper into the surface there, but it might even blend out a little bit on the edges here so that it has a little bit more of a kind of a shape to it. There's little PBR tricks sometimes that work for games that aren't technically correct, but they still work. So you might see things like this time to time. I kind of like that, but then I kind of want all of this just a little bit darker as well. Now, the reason you can get away with some things like that is also because, it's there's a good chance that like in crevices of surfaces, right? Like we would have these darker areas possibly due to like dirt buildup or whatever the case. There's all kinds of things that could be happening. You can pencil those in sometimes, and they work out a little bit nicer than just using like an ambient occlusion type mask, right? And that's where I think it's a little finesse to it, but it's definitely fun. And I was saying, like, you can use this program like you're sculpting. You can do this on any material. Like, it's not just you use a height layer. Like, you can do it on materials as well. So, anytime you want to try changing things up, I mean, you can. That's the crazy thing about substance. and we're at still under an hour right now, guys, and we're already kind of kicking it here. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna finish with I want that brown. Which oh, you know what? No, that's procedural, and because we painted that in, I guess. Um, let's do another fill. Let's just do brown, and we'll do rough up. Okay, and we can do a black mask and start layering basically, right? So this one will turn flow up a bit, maybe. Yeah, so we can go back and tweak and adjust and do, whatever we got to do. Like I missed a spot in here or something. So this one we're painting right now doesn't have any texture to it. Um, we can work out texture in substance right here in Painter, um, but you you can create like your own materials in Substance Designer as well and make them a little bit nicer, perhaps. You do your own base materials where they're more adjustable and you can set up parameters and do all that fun stuff. You can see like I can add little patterns or details or like got like combat paint on because he's like predator, all crazy or something. You know what I'm saying? We can do that. Do little bumps in the surface or little tears in the skin or whatever we got to do, guys. I mean, it's all here for us to experiment with and have fun. Out different little colors, combos, and I'm gonna change the green because I like the green a lot. I think it looks pretty good that way. But I'm gonna just change it last minute here because maybe I can get something better going. So we'll try it with maybe more like a yellowish. Oh, it's already kind of yellow. More of a lime kind of yellow. Let's do what's this? The highlights? Yeah. Okay. I don't mind the highlights too. Slight tweak there. It's the other one that I really want to change. This one. No, not that one. Is this? Oh, it's just a combo of both of them? Okay. It kinda creates a weird gradient, I guess. Alright, so kinda cool. Yeah, I just wanted to look a little bit more unified together. Something more like that maybe. Okay. And where did my other thing go? Why'd this turn different color? Did I turn it off and not turn it back on? Oh, I did. Okay. I think it's too strong, that color. So what we'll do is we will for the whole group, let's just do the whole group. Base color, let's just turn it down a little bit so that it uses more of the original under it. Yeah. So, yeah, so it's not so bright. That was very too much brightness. A little too cartoony for me. Or maybe just I don't know, something wasn't sitting right with me. Too dark now. Something more like that, maybe. All right, cool. So, guys, can you do this stuff? Absolutely. All right. For concept piece, this is fast, it's easy, it's efficient. It's only we're pretty much there. Um, all we have to do at this point is export the textures. So we'll export textures, and we're going to use the Blender template for now. So Blender principled BSDF based on output template, and we can change the resolution that we want. I'm going to do a 2048, set a folder, and create a new one called textures. And we're going to select that folder. That'll go into there. Okay. And you can export a USD asset if you want as well. I'm not worried about that right now. Save your settings if needed. Export, save your, yeah, you see save your settings or cancel or whatever. And then you can also save your file. And last but not least, we have to export this mesh. You can apply triangulation, but you don't have to, and see if you get a different result. But let's say we do that. We'll say this is now UV map. Okay, we have to export it because it added the UV maps. So this model over here, hide it. We're going to do a import FBX. Desktop is where I had it, so we'll do UV mapped. We don't need the material necessarily. We'll bring it in anyways. It'll probably add a material to it. Maybe not. Who knows? But yeah, there we go. So now we should see if we go grab this object. Yeah, did add the material. Go to edit mode, UV editor. We still have the UV maps. Cool. And we're going to remove that material. We're going to create a new one. Call it our creature material. The shading. Use the Node Wrangler add-on. Grab this one. Control Shift T. On our folder. Grab them all. Set it up. We're going to connect displacement. You might want to detach that for the time being because we're not using it. But you can use displacement as well. And so if we do a material preview, we'll have something like this here in Blender. So you want to set up Eevee, turn ray tracing on. And right now, I'm just turning denoising off because sometimes it blurs things a little bit. Okay. And let's set up a camera real quick. Shift A, create a camera. Tilde key, view. Well, make sure it's tilde key, view camera. Shift tilde key. We're going to hit W or S, excuse me. Back it up. So we can set up a camera for this guy if needed. Right. And get them in the right area anyways. So now this is what's kind of fun in Blender. You can go to view and you can make the camera aligned to the view, right? Right. So if we rotate, our camera is always set up now. We want to shift right click here, add a empty plane axis. Okay. And now for our camera, we select it, go to its settings, depth of field. We're going to pick the empty. Make sure we can get the right thing. If you can't pick it this way, sometimes it's hard. I'll just pick it off the list. Right. We should be able to drop the f-stop now and start to add depth of field. See the background getting blurrier. I'm not going to do a whole lot here with that, but that's what you can do. Now over here, you can change the compositor, turn it to always for the viewport. Okay. And if you ever want to get out of the camera, just tilde key and like view right, and then you'll be out of it. And now you don't have to worry about rotating it around. Otherwise it rotates with your view. But it's set up for compositor. So go to the compositor, click use nodes, change this to 3D viewport, set it up so that it's still in render preview possibly, using that as well. And then we can actually set this up over here. Tilde key view through the camera, right? Can't see nothing right now, so let's go to material preview for a second. Yeah, I just want to make sure we're still in the right area. Okay. What we want to do, maybe go to render preview. We can add lights. We'll do like an area light real quick. We'll just send it above for a second. Right click, adjust light power. Move it over to the side. He's not realistically scaled or size, so it's not going to be quite right here. But I think you get the idea. We could set up our lighting this way. And now the compositor is active basically. So we'll go back to it. You see it's still going to look the same over here. And we can add things like filter. We can do glare. Might look pretty nice. You can do fog glow or bloom or whatever. And so we can do that. This should be taking effect on it, but it didn't look like it did much, did it? Let's try doing, let's do a Always forget where they put it. It's under transform, lens distortion. I'm gonna change the dispersion. Okay, dispersion, you can get carried away with this. Don't do much. Do very little amount. You can get a nice little result going there, almost no problem. And this is where you would want to more than likely set up an HDRI for this as well. I'm gonna be lazy about this though. I'm not gonna do the world setup right now. I'm just gonna turn off scene world. Okay. And I'm gonna drag the strength down on an HDRI. Pick an HDRI I like. I can get some more reflections into the eyes there. Okay. So I'm gonna turn this preview off real quick. Actually, let's change these colors. Do one kind of like a light blue. Let's do one a little bit more of an amber. Yeah, so there's all kinds of stuff we could do here. But we could really go to town with the rendering setup and making shadows. Like for example, if we keep dropping the strength, we could do that. We'll get more kind of contrasted, dynamic looking stuff. You could also try playing with color management. Maybe doing instead of AGX, maybe we do standard or try other ones. Chronos actually works out really well, in my opinion, but it's a little saturated sometimes. So, but it looks pretty cool. You see, AGX with Punchy also does something kind of similar, but you can play with the brightness here and the gamma value. You can get really cool results out of this if you wanted to. Now, I think I kind of don't have exactly the light setup I would want right now. I would also rather this be pointed more down. Maybe this pointed more from the side and the back, so we have more of like a rim light from it. Something like that, maybe. Hard to tell, or like sometimes it's hard to see what you're doing and get it right, but we'll see what happens here with this. Yeah, you can see how much the lighting influences the look of this thing. Right? Turn this off a sec. Are we close? We're pretty close. So this is pretty fun, but I don't know about that one or that one. Do a high contrast. Yeah, that's about the way I want it, I think. All right, so we got that. Now we're in the camera right now. Okay. But this isn't realistic. If we render, it won't look like this. The scene world would be off. Okay. And so this is a good way to preview what you want to do, maybe. And then once you understand what you want to do, turn it back on. And we can go to the shader. We can switch from um, object to world. This is our world shader. We can bring in our texture, image texture of choice. Oops, sorry. Texture, environment texture. Open. Go find an HDRI that you like. Already have mine saved here. Drop it in to right there. You can see how that shows up. So we can, with Node Wrangler, hit Control T. It'll add the texture coordinate node and the mapping there generated. So we can rotate on Z. You can see how that's working out. Now we can see our bloom as well. That's great. But it's still very strong. We can reduce the strength. Unfortunately, you can see where we get a little bit of an issue here. We have the background showing up now. So we might want to do a mix shader. We can do shader, mix shader. We attach it like so. We add another background shader basically. Attach that. We're going to do a input of, if I get this right, man, it's been a while since I've done this actually. Light path is camera ray. Should work. Okay. So if we want to just use like a gray background, we still could, right? But to get that blurry setup, I thought Blender might have added that to it, but they might have not. Um, what some guys were doing, they were using like a sphere around it that was set to a glass material, but I never really liked that technique. So whatever the case, I'll just use the gray material for now, and that'll work for the time being, anyways. But yeah, that's pretty spot on to what I would want, right, for a render. Pretty cool. Let's save this before Blender crashes, and we'll say our creature head. And this is kind of maybe a step, like maybe you duplicate this before you do this. You duplicate it with Shift E, hide one so you don't use it. We get this one. We go back to sculpt mode. We have the pose tool. The pose tool, the bigger it is, the longer that line gets. See? Okay. But this is where it gets kind of interesting. If we come over here, we can set an IK chain. So pose IK segment's only one. We can do two. Now we can set an IK chain. So we can pose this. It might deform it a little bit more than you want it to, and not maybe the ways you want to. If that's the case, use bones and do a little bit of weight painting. But it's kind of cool because, like, if we want to do a little animation with this, we could probably use like shape keys or something. Maybe I don't know. But no, take that back. Shape keys wouldn't quite get you what you want, but it's kind of cool that you can do this, anyways. You can see it works out pretty well, but maybe not exactly the way you want it. See, sometimes they're hard to like move around correctly. But I wanted them to be a little bit more like in this area where we can still kind of see something going on, but maybe we don't know exactly what. I like the high contrast, but I'm going to increase the world. You can see all of our shader setup here over this area is also over here. So if you ever want to just expand this and change some of the values around, you can do that. Not really a big deal. So background strength was the one, right? I don't want it too bright. Just barely light enough that we can see something going on in there, but we don't know what, right? I think that's kind of the key there for that one. All right. And for whatever reason, I just noticed this not too long ago. Like when you go into sculpt mode and you go back here, I'm not sure what does that. There's something in the shader, I think. You gotta switch from world back to object. I thought that was the displacement doing that, but maybe they have a different setup here. It's something to do with the normal map or something. Not real sure what does that one. Anyways, so yeah, there we go, guys. Save that one. Hey, if you want to create a quick concept and you don't want to rely off AI or whatever, that's a fast way of doing it, in my opinion, because it's a lot easier to pull something off like this than trying to like necessarily hand draw something and get this kind of texture work going, right? So build up those material libraries, play around with your sculpting tools, get good at it. You can knock things out like this very fast, and it does not have to be. There's a lot of steps maybe to it. But once you get used to working with Blender and you spend some time doing this, it becomes a lot of fun. It really is. You get used to the workflow, and it's not too crazy. So now we have this crazy creature, and looks really good from this side. Obviously, we didn't detail any of the back or the bottom, but so good starting point, at least. You don't have to even like. You could definitely sculpt on this more and finish the back and everything. You'd have an excellent starting point. Figure out if you want to like retopo it and do more sculpting or whatever you got to do to finish it out to like a production asset, perhaps. Because you're gonna do teeth and right. So, with all this set the way it is, we should be able to just press F12, start a render. You can see it does this number. That's because of everything else here being rendered. So I would move this guy to a new collection. Just call it rendered for now. And the eyeballs as well. And this whole section we just turn off. We hit F12. Right? Oh, we need lights. Yeah, the lights could empty the camera. I don't know. Maybe all that stuff's needed too. I don't think it is, but there you go. So in an hour and 15 minutes, pretty decent result. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll check you out the next one. All right, take care.